I'm answering questions and they're listening politely because, I was a presidential candidate. One lady raises her hand and goes, "Excuse me, don't you think guns are dangerous?" Well, no. If I thought guns are dangerous, I wouldn't have a closet full. Well, couldn't we vote to take your guns away? Yeah, absolutely. Unanimous vote. Michael is crazy, Michael is dangerous, and you're going to vote to take my guns away. You can do that. But then you're going to have another vote to decide which of you is going to come and take my guns. And that is not a vote I recommend you win. If you think the only determination of the Second Amendment is the opinion of the Supreme Court, then I invite you to be the person standing out in front of my door the day the government comes to take my guns. Because you're going to discover that my interpretation of the Second Amendment is the only one that counts. And we are getting to a point, ladies and gentlemen, in our society where the fabric of society is very, very fragile. If we have another terrorist event, this country is going to be in civil war.
Unlike what Americans have been told, terrorism is not an enemy but a tactic. It is very hard nowadays to tell the difference between those that mean us harm and those that are supposed to protect us. Don't the ones that mean us harm want to extinguish our freedoms? Don't the ones that mean us harm want to conceal their motives and identities? Don't the ones that mean us harm directly endanger our lives with every action? And some say, yes, but they are only trying to protect us for our own good. May I remind all of you that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I received an email recently from Michael Bednarik, the famous constitutional professor and former presidential candidate of the Libertarian Party. I called him back and we spoke for about 45 minutes. He called to comment on a video I had made and wished that more people had felt the passion I had conveyed in that video. He acknowledged that nothing would change unless we were physically willing to lay it all on the line for freedom. He told me that he was giving a speech and asked the crowd, who here would die for liberty? A good portion of the crowd raised their hand and asked, why would you die for liberty? In your death, you will have lost life, liberty, and happiness and gained nothing. He said the key question should be, would you kill for liberty? He said you could hear the collective sound of rectal sphincters contract at the mere thought of taking such uncivilized action. However, in his account, he spoke the truth, and I thanked him for his words of encouragement, and I needed to tell him how important his legacy of information, now on YouTube for all to see and learn, was for all in the Patriot movement. Most people prefer to believe that their leaders are just and fair, even in the face of evidence to the contrary, because once a citizen acknowledges that the government under which he lives is lying and corrupt, the citizen has to choose what he or she will do about it. The urge to save humanity is almost always only a false face for the urge to rule it. To take action in the face of corrupt government entails risk of harm to life and loved ones. Life is full of risks. To choose to do nothing is to surrender one's self-image of standing for principles. Most people do not have the courage to face that choice. Most propaganda is not designed to fool the critical thinker, but only to give moral cowards an excuse not to think at all. But what if they impose martial law? Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every kingdom of Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any bands of regular troops that can be raised in the United States. Do not put faith in any politicians, as politicians make promises they never intend to keep. As Jesus himself said in Matthew chapter 7, verse 5, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves." In any free society, the conflict between social conformity and individual liberty is permanent, unresolvable, and necessary. There is no way to rule innocent men. The only power government has is the power to crack down on criminals. Well, when there aren't enough criminals, one makes them. One declares so many things to be a crime that it becomes impossible for men to live without breaking laws. If we could just pass a few more laws, we could all be criminals. Good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. It is hardly too strong to say that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be masters. As America descends into governmental tyranny, I have noticed a recurring theme. It seems that when the pressures of society become intolerable, society always finds someone to blame. Government especially will always deflect guilt, usually by finding the weakest or most disenfranchised and politically neutered in our society, like welfare moms, illegal aliens, or a targeted minority to hoist the burden of guilt upon. They may pick on those just getting by in life, like teachers or blue-collar workers, and demonize them for causing society's ills. Even if these scapegoats were, by some measure, taking advantage of the system, it is because the government allows it to be so. Many times the same government will pit one citizen against the other on topics so personal that no government should weigh in on. Conspiracy theories of groups allegedly conspiring to overthrow our way of life, like the globalists, the NWO, the Masons, the Zionists, and the like, abound in all times of economic strife in history. Even if any of these were true, and I'm sure there would be many to cite a myriad of historical facts to prove their position, identifying a burglar does not make your house more secure from others who would quickly take their place in the vacuum of their absence. Why do I say this? Imagine a bully comes to take advantage of you. Does it matter who the bully is? The only thing that matters is what you do in the face of the bullying, regardless of who the bully is. How does this translate into our modern American experience? First, I would encourage you to memorize the Bill of Rights. Secondly, don't let anyone interpret that right for you. The only interpretation that counts is yours. Thirdly, respect the rights of others, agree or disagree, until such time as their rights infringe upon yours. And lastly, be prepared to defend your rights with as much force as necessary to preserve your rights. In these times of state-sponsored terrorism, your government may be at odds with your rights. So when going out to exercise your rights, come prepared to defend those rights when you are challenged by anyone, including the police. Be prepared to face your bully physically and mentally. So if someone is interfering with your rights to political expression, if someone is trying to stop you from peacefully assembling, if anyone is trying to forcibly enter or search your person, home, or effects without probable cause or warrant, or someone is trying to forcibly separate you from your property without due process of law, then it is up to you and you alone to protect your rights by any means necessary. If there is no consequence for misbehavior, then the bully will raise the level of abuse until the victim has had enough. There are no hopeless situations. There are only men who have grown hopeless about them. The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. My friends, no one said freedom was free.
I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. You won it by making the other poor dumb bastard die for his country.